Welcome to the Becoming Sound podcast, where we dive into the tough stuff and try to find the humor in the hot mess of being an adult child. Join me as we peel back the layers on growing up in dysfunction, navigating substance abuse, mental health challenges, and everything in between. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Becoming Sound podcast. I'm Krista, your host, and thank you so much for joining me today. And if you're new here, welcome. If this episode today resonates with you, please give us a follow, a like, a rating, review, follow me on social media, and share it with someone that you love, especially if you're a parent, because this is one for the parents for sure. So I have an incredible guest on today. Her name is Stacy Schaffer, and she is a licensed professional counselor with over 20 years experience, as she specializes in children, teens, and young adults. She is also an author, and her book is called With Love from a Children's Therapist. And we're going to talk a little bit about her book today. She is also a trauma survivor who turned her own hard past into purpose and practice helping others heal. I think it's so important to create awareness and to have the tools and knowledge in how to help our young population deal effectively with trauma and pain and all of the emotional stuff that comes up for them. So I'm excited to have her tell us all about that. And honestly, her energy just lights up the room. So let's get started with Stacy. Welcome, Stacy. I'm so happy to have you here. How are you doing today?
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited for this conversation.
Good, me too. So you are a counselor, and you deal mostly with children, teens, youth, that type of thing. Is that correct?
That's the rumor. That's what I've
Yeah.
been posing as for a couple decades. So,
That's awesome.
yeah, I always say I see it in between the ages of 3 and 30, but
Okay.
I don't kick people out because I'm always like, I'm always going to be older than you. So,
Yeah. Well, there you go, right? So before we kind of get into what you do and everything, I just would invite you to tell us a little bit about your life, like before credential, a little bit about your story.
so I was born in Las Vegas, which isn't my fault. Showed up on the scene. It was very, very overwhelming. So many lights. And so I'm an only child. My mom was a single mom. She divorced when I was like 3 months old. He was out of the picture. I met him when I was 18. That's a whole thing. And so my mom was a single mom until I was 10. And really horrific abuse happened in that time frame. And part of my platform is like healing your wounds before perhaps like your kids are hurt by the same thing. Because had my mom, I'd learned later, dealt with some of those things, my childhood would have been
Yeah.
entirely different. So mom married stepdad who was wonderful. Um, like there was a court case, it was really awful. And then there was a really, really dark year in my story that I don't know how much you want me to get into. And I when I came back to Las Vegas, 'cause it was in Utah in that dark year. When I came back to Las Vegas, my mom was full blown had full blown breast cancer. And like I lost some like karmic lottery. I don't know. I don't know what happened. And so my mom was really sick. And but I can tell you the very moment that I was at my front door and had all this trauma that I was like shoving down deep, and I was like, that was then, this is now. We start over. And
Wow.
so I built a foundation kind of from that part. Like I didn't refer to my childhood, to any of that. And so I started and I built a life on achievement and performance and being shiny and outgoing. And I did speech and debate, la 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 la. And I genuinely thought, no, that's fine. We're just gonna keep it in the closet there.
Mm.
It'll stay quiet. And then my mom ended up dying when I was 22,
Mhm.
and I have no living relatives like left. And so it was at the summer before my last semester of college. I was headed to grad school to help other people instead. Like that'll be fun. And so that's kind of the big arc of growing up as me by
Yeah.
Stacy M. Schaffer.
How did that pushing all that stuff down come up when you decided you were going to help people?
Yeah, it didn't. Like the really dark stuff because I had this whole grief arc with my mom that was very real. That is still very real. I mean, now like the work I moved through is like grieving the mom I didn't have.
Mhm.
But so much of that grief was foundational to my career and the the conversations and the transparency that I had, that it was like, yeah, like that's I mean, it's really painful to lose your mom as a young adult. And so in my head, I genuinely thought, well, that pain, that is part of the like origination of where I start to talk about me. And so we don't go there. Like no one needs to go there. And so I just believed that I could help people heal from the point of like grieving, that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. Like it just gave you a little bit of extra insight and yeah, that's awesome. So tell me about what it is you do now.
Yeah. Well, I do have a therapy dog in training if we ever want to see her. She's a golden retriever. She's pretty adorable. It's my sidekick.
I bet.
And so she's asleep though, because I guess we don't want to be on Zoom. And so I am in private practice. I'm in Arvada, Colorado, which is outside of Denver.
Mhm.
And so I see kids, teens, young adults. This is like my more like young adult room. The other room looks like a therapeutic Disneyland.
Yeah.
It's a lot. And so I see individuals, and I recently wrote a book. And
Mhm.
so I've been spending a lot of time having conversations about that book. And I'm looking towards building a course. And so
Okay.
that'll be kind of fun. So first time my business manager's gonna be so proud of me. The first time I ever said that out loud. So like building a course to support parents in helping raise the kids of today because it
Right.
is different,
Very
as it
different.
will be in 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah. What kind of things do you see that are standing out?
Yeah.
What's
I definitely think like the social media
Mhm.
conversation is huge. Because I like, in the 80s, kids were obviously left out, but
Mm.
it wasn't in their face. They wouldn't like go home and see all their friends make a TikTok without them. Like that conversation could go on forever about the
Mhm.
different challenges. But I also don't want to demonize social media because I think, like that's how we have like so many connections and it is great and people feel less alone, but it's a different childhood than not being able to know like where all your friends are at all times because they all track
Yeah.
each other, which I think
Yeah.
is bizarre. I think there's that. I think that the school violence issue in America is such a big one. I never worried about things of that nature when I went to school.
Yeah, neither did I.
And so, yeah, it is like that without even realizing it. Like I wrote a chapter in my book called Ultra Neon Dysregulation. And it's like called the Las Vegas nerve, get it? But it's about how they are getting dysregulated walking into school and not even realizing it because they're
Mhm.
scanning. That's just normal to them. All the kids that go to school today have never known a world without lockdown drills. So
Right.
those are two of the big ones.
Okay, sorry for the interruption, but I have to tell you about an amazing opportunity. If you have ever thought I should probably learn how to protect myself, this would be your sign. My friend Alicia Yubera is launching 21 Days to Unbreakable. It's a 21 days self defense and confidence training created specifically for women. This isn't about fear, it's about embodied confidence. It's about trusting your instincts and knowing that you can handle yourself. You'll get short video lessons, a guided workbook, practice drills, and community support, all from the comfort of your own home. Enrollment opens on March 2nd. You can use the code Becoming Sound 2026 for $50 off. Highly recommend. The link will be in the show notes. Yeah. Yeah, no kidding. I mean, you hear about it all the time, but I don't think about the ripple effect for the kids having to do all that. I would have never had that in school. Like that's
Yeah.
completely
Y
foreign, right?
yeah, and I am in the same school district as, like, one of the last big high school shootings on, September 10th,
Okay.
at Evergreen High School, and so it's not too far from here, and so, not only do the kids that I see that are connected to that school, but we have a really big school district,
Mhm.
um, kids are like, we're coming in saying, like, "I just knew it was a matter of time."
Yeah, like
and so
they're hypervigilant almost without having a
yeah.
bucket to be
Well,
that way.
they yeah, and they're unfazed, like a little kid, like really young elementary, like came in bounding that day, and he's like, "Did you know there was a school shooting?" And it wasn't like the angry guy shooter kind; it was the bad kid shooter kind.
Mm,
And I'm like, "Okay." And, like, the parent had told me they had to inform him because they had a relative that was there at the time.
right.
And so, but I'm just, like, looking at this baby,
I
and then,
know.
like, change the subject as kids do, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
"What are we doing?"
Yeah, like, just so nonchalantly add
Yeah.
throws that into the mix, right? The
Yes.
a kid shouldn't even know what that means,
Yeah, like, the difference with, like,
right?
what?
Yeah.
And it's just like,
Aw.
"What?" I'm like, "Oh, what" I'm like, "Yeah, I wonder what you think about that." He's like, "I don't know. Anyway, like, blah, blah, blah." And
Yeah.
so it's just a different world that
Mhm.
we never considered. I need to put on the right shoes in case I need to run. That's
No,
the kind of things they think about.
that's crazy. That's, so sad, actually.
It's really sad. It's
Yeah.
really sad, and we as, like, kids therapists will continue to hold this space for that because what do you do? It's rough because,
Mhm.
like, there's you want to have an assurance of safety and
Yeah.
not so much.
Yeah, for sure. So, with the kids coming in to see you to talk about their stuff, how much of it are you seeing with childhood dysfunction? They're living this in their home type thing.
Yeah. Well, I wanna say I have so much respect for parents who bring their kids to counseling.
Yeah.
I think it is an incredible act of courage and humility to be
Uh,
like, "There's this kid that I love that I don't really know what to do, please help."
yeah,
So
100%.
oh, yeah, and so I really I want to, like, honor parents that are willing to do that. I mean, the first thing that came to mind, was that, like, sometimes, in a perhaps high conflict divorce situation, there might be an absent parent that is not and that is hard, for like a kid to reflect back to you. But what I just think time and time and time again, what a gift to have the language as a 10-year-old about
Mhm.
what you're experiencing so that it doesn't get convoluted and you have patterns that you don't understand why you're behaving like that when you're older.
Yeah.
Um,
Honestly, I'd love to unpack that a little bit because that made me think of as a child myself. First of all, therapy wasn't a thing. Like you just didn't do that. I am an 80s product. In even talking to we had guidance counselors or school counselors, I would have never divulged what was going on in my home. Like, I
ever.
didn't have the language for it, nor did I think that it was appropriate to tell people outside the home.
Sure.
So, I mean, the fact that kids are understanding the kind of language that they need to use, or they're really grasping a little bit of what's going on, is that kind of the norm? Like, you're
Oh
seeing
my
kids.
god.
Yeah.
Yes, it's like saving lives. 'Cause same, I'm a product of the '80s too. And so, like if anyone needed to go, I needed to go. Like there's another chapter in my book called hashtag Get Your Own Stacy, doing your inner work. Because
Yeah.
the kid yelled that at like a parent in my waiting room, "Get your own
That's
Stacy!"
that's awesome.
And I know. And so like yesterday a kid was saying to me, we were talking about if we see each other in public, and I'm like, you can say hi to me, you can ignore me. I just can't first, whatever. And like, they're like, why? And I'm like, well, you might be with a friend, and they might be like, who is that? And why does she wear so much purple? And like, those are questions you can't answer because I just like it. I don't know. And so like time and time again, and
Yeah.
this kid said yesterday, well, I am proud to have a therapist. Why wouldn't I be like, this is my therapist? I'm like,
Yeah.
well, you can. It's just that you have the power.
Yeah.
And they're like, the kids of today, my experience is that so many of them, it's a badge of honor that it's
Yeah.
like, yeah. So I think the awareness, like the ending in stigma, it is saving lives 1000%. It's
Yeah.
different now.
Yeah. And honestly, just what you said about kids have a harder time understanding confidentiality
Yeah.
than they do talking about their emotional
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah.
Like
They're like, why wouldn't
they're
I? Blah,
that
blah.
is an absolutely incredible thing to see happening because that would have never happened when I was a kid. Never.
Ever. But to that end, like you said about the guidance counselor,
Mhm.
I don't even know who mine, like, were, like, let's be real.
I don't
Um,
either.
yeah, and so, but the container at home wasn't safe enough.
Yes.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
and so I, like, didn't trust that, like, anyone I had my most favorite beloved teacher in high school, who wrote me a review on Amazon, made me sob.
Mhm.
She was the safest person in the world, but I knew that, like, she would have to tell them, go home to
Right.
tell them, and then I have to live there.
Yeah.
And so I think that like that's important to note too. If someone is bringing their kid, their grandkid, their like whoever to counseling, there's at least a remotely safe enough container that
Yeah.
like that healing can happen as opposed to, because I'm a mandated reporter, and so
Yeah.
people aren't going to bring their kids to me that know that they're going to report
Yeah.
abuse. So.
So I mean, there's still a lot of kids falling through the cracks then, obviously. And,
No,
you know,
I
the,
little me would have still fallen through the cracks because
yeah,
I was shiny. I
me
was
too.
so shiny.
Me too. Yeah. I was doing everything right on the outside and screaming on the inside, but not understanding where to turn or who I could talk to because of the secrecy factor. So, yeah, I completely understand it. So, just for some of the parents out there too, that if they are having some of this stuff come up for the kid, how can you spot when kids are having some issues with their nervous system and regulating it?
Yeah. I mean, I think that that's tricky. And the key is to know the kid in front of you.
Hmm.
Because it can present so different. And so, that there's a wide spectrum of ways that it could show up. And so I think that it's important to have something to compare to, right? Like,
Right.
like all of a sudden or like, an increase or decrease in something significant that,
Hmm.
like all of a sudden they're not sleeping. They're, like things that would lead you to even take them to the pediatrician because there's a pediatrician on the other side of the hall who's wonderful, and so we collaborate a lot because people are like, I there's this physical symptom, and then Dr. Mathod's like, well, it's probably this, and
Right.
so I think that it's the onus on the baseline,
Hmm.
because if someone like comes in and their kid that's like high like us like high performing, they're like, there's something going on. Well, maybe not, maybe they're high performing.
Yeah, and that's a tough one because like we were talking about kids sliding under the wire. It's the high performing kids and the kids who seem super regulated, but they're not, and those are the hard ones to reach, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
what I respect so much, I have several kids that they are the sibling of a more challenging kid.
Okay.
And so the parents, in some of these scenarios, they're like, basically, this other kid is on fire.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure the needs of this kid are not missed. And this kid knows that their needs are important too. And
Right.
so that's like the main reason that it's like how to cope with sibling. And like
Yeah,
that's
100%.
so beautiful to me.
Yeah,
Like
that's
what?
amazing. Amazing. Like, having one child who's in addiction or was, the others get forgotten about sometimes. You don't have the capacity to manage it all.
Only so much time.
There's only so much chaos you can handle, right? So, yeah, like if they're not getting help, how is that
Oh.
shaping them,
Well,
their identities
yeah.
and into adulthood?
I mean, a family could experience the same incident and it all show up
Mhm.
different for them. So I think I would say more along the lines of like what intervention is like in place in order to get that support.
Mhm.
Because I've seen so many grieving families, right? It's my specialty. And for like one kid, they're like, it was hard. I need to talk about it a couple times and like I've sort of integrated it. Whereas another one, it has a hard time functioning.
Right.
And so I think that the research shows what matters most is with kids and adverse experiences is that the first adult's response to hear about the situation, that is like more important than what
Mhm.
happens long term because they're so in that vulnerable moment. And so
Right.
I think that it's like the onus to to respond in a way that they're at least feeling validated, heard, seen, to then move forward from that because that we all have just extremely different needs.
A little bit of your program that you're developing too is how to help parents talk to their kids to
Yeah.
recognize these things, like some tools and strategies.
Yeah, yeah, that, like, because communication is it's tricky, like, everyone's like, "I don't know how to talk to my kids," and I
Mhm.
think that like, read a little bit about it, like, things that you can say. I always say to parents, like, a good opener is, "Help me understand what it's like to be you."
Mm,
Because I think so many times well-intentioned parents,
right.
caregivers will say, "I know what that's like, I was a kid too." And a kid
Yeah.
gets shut down in that moment.
Oh,
And
yeah.
the without, intending to, they're saying like, "I get it." When they're like, "You don't though. You don't."
Yeah.
There's some core issues that we all get. We all had to deal with grades and teachers and rules and
Mm,
bedtime. But it's like, full circle to the beginning of the conversation. It's a different world. And so when we go in acting like I know, I get it. Like, yeah, like
yeah.
that invalidation, like just
Yeah.
like seals those lips.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that is attributed to parents just don't have the language. They don't actually have the skills to actually say those words. So it's great to have resources out there to actually teach them almost like little cue cards, that like little phrases that they can use.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I think too that we like could do better, all of us, like learning to hold space.
Hmm.
Because I don't think that it is always like the right words that are needed. It's the openness and being present. Because
Hmm.
I'm sure like you've heard, do you want advice or do you want feedback? I mean, do you want to be heard or do you want advice or feedback?
Yeah.
And I find that 9 times out of 10, people are just like, "Yeah, I don't really want advice," because that can land as patronizing, like, "Have you considered, like, taking a
Hmm.
nap?" And you're just like, "'Kay."
Yeah. And I think kids are just so unheard and seen so much that really all they want you to do is just shut up and listen for a few
Yeah.
minutes,
I do
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like, when I have family sessions, I use a certain, like, Squishmallow to be the talking ball,
Okay.
and I'm like, "I do have the bird," you know? "You don't." And they'll be like,
No.
"Yeah, mom."
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's so true. It's so true. I just think, and as a parent myself, and having brought a lot of crap into my parenting because I didn't, hadn't dealt with it, then I realize now the language that's being used now, I could have used. I could have used those skills and that knowledge and stuff like that. So I think
My
it's so important.
my favorite teacher who left me the review, I think it was, like, the first like, she was, like, the first review and it came out, but, she wrote, "I really wish I had this guide for Stacy when she needed me most."
Um, yeah, that's
Yeah, and I
awesome.
just thought that that was really precious.
Yeah. And I think that's something about this new age and kids growing up in this new age is the information is there. Like we can find resources so much quicker and so much easier, even as teachers, as
Sure.
parents. If you have the desire to interact better with your kids or learn communication skills, honestly, it won't even cost you a dime. You just have to look it up, right?
Yeah, like, yeah, and in a way, almost like too much information, like
Yeah.
overload, like drinking from a fire hose, for
Yeah,
sure.
100%. Yeah. So in your book, that's called With Love from a children's therapist, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. It's got a beautiful purple. Do you want to show it? Because I don't have it.
It's really
It's
pretty.
really
Has
pretty.
a little butterfly because that's, like, my signature is, like, butterflies.
Yeah, it's really pretty. So tell us a little bit about the book. And if you could, I love the little phrase that you gave for parents to address their kids. Do you have a couple more kind of practical skills like that you could let us in on?
Yeah, like, my book, it's like, I would say it's part memoir. There was a podcast that she introduced my book as, a guide to not emotionally damage the next generation. And I was like,
Perfect.
Girl, I love that.
Yeah.
And so it's part, like, wisdom of, like, what little Stacy needed,
Mhm.
in conjunction with what I'd just seen, like, over the years. I personally think the biggest gift that you can give your kids is to do some of your own work,
Yeah.
and I think that that can be daunting for a lot of people, especially with a lot of trauma. But so I would say, like a tip, like anything you do to address some of those unmet needs, to address your own inner child, is a gift to your child.
Yeah.
I feel like every therapy session that I attend with their grand therapist is like I am becoming more and more myself and more integrated and more
Mhm.
open and more able to have capacity for more. And
Yeah.
so I would say that's the gift. That is the absolute gift, to do your work and, talk about the things that you maybe didn't address when you were their age that would have been helpful. Because
Mhm.
I think a lot of times people get activated by their kids when they're the same age, when
Yes.
they're trauma. And so, which is natural. Like, of course you are.
Yeah.
Like if my mom, I didn't learn. I learned in a very inappropriate way. I was about to testify in court because we used to make kids do that. I was 10. She's like, I know how you feel because this horrible thing happened to me and I've never said it out loud till now. And
Right.
I'm like, and it was pretty bad. And so, it was when she was 11, and had my mom, but also it's like the 50s, right? Like,
Yeah.
had my mom had the support she deserved, my childhood would not have been the same.
Yeah.
The
100%.
very trajectory of my entire childhood.
Yeah.
And so I think like a tip is, there are lots of tools, but like safe friends, finding support groups online, books, audiobook, whatever you can do
Mhm.
to own that part of you is a gift.
Yeah. I could not agree more. I when I think back, I wish I would have had those skills to really dig into my own work because now I'm a completely different parent person, right? It
Right?
makes all the difference. And yeah, it's hard work for sure. And some people are a little scared of it. But what's on the other side is so much more incredible that it's not as scary as you think.
Yeah,
Right?
and I would argue that it's scarier to not.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like, I'm a better clinician,
Mhm.
like, than when I first started being like, "Let me help you, like, everything is fine."
Yeah.
Like, I think that, kids can see through that, and so, like, that they're like, "Oh my gosh, talk to someone."
Yeah.
Because the
Yeah.
kids are gonna like, "Why wouldn't you address your mental health? Do that."
Yeah. Especially when it's so much more open now. So it's a lot more acceptable. And every time you open a phone or whatever, you're seeing mental health stuff come up in one form or another. So if kids are talking in this language already, parents got to catch up, right?
Oh, for
Yeah.
sure.
And it's going to
Yeah.
be the next couple generations that we'll start to see more and more of this style of parenting that I went through and that you went through kind of disintegrate. We're gonna see
For
hopefully
sure. Like,
that
what is that like to be 9 and know exactly what gaslighting is? Like, what?
exactly. I would have not been able to tell you what that.
No, like, you're what? You're doing
Yeah.
what? Like, a lot of times, like, I'm glad they bring it up in here because, like, it's not everyone is bullying you. People are allowed to not like you. And so, like, they definitely need some clarification.
Uh-huh.
Also true is, like, language is very healing.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, I can see that being warranted too, because some of the stuff online just pulls and sways you in one direction, and then that's misinformation for them.
Yeah, it was a big trend. I don't know, like I would say maybe decade-ish ago, a little less. They were all diagnosing themselves with DID, dissociative identity
Oh,
disorder.
okay.
And so they were like, I have different feelings, therefore I'm different people. And you're
It
like,
sounds like it's the same thing with ADHD. Everyone's
yes.
diagnosing themselves with ADHD.
Yeah, squirrel. And so like
Yeah.
I think that like there's, different traces of challenges for all of us, but like people just want to be understood. And so
Yeah.
they see someone on TikTok that's like, "Do you ever lose track of time?" That means you're a different personality and they're like, And, that's why it's great to keep the lines of communication open so they're
Yeah.
not, "Well, here's what my own clinical diagnosis is." And you're like, "Listen, 12-year-old."
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So I want to ask you too about this. I think a lot of people spend a lot of time in the space of awareness, but they don't understand how to integrate. When you learn what's going on for you, your emotion come up, okay, I need some emotional regulation. How do you work with kids to integrate that kind of stuff into their lives? Or do they just grasp it?
Well, I mean, I think it's a good question. I think it, like, shifts. I don't know. I use a lot of what I am given, like, the
Hmm.
tools that I'm given, and one of the best tools for me, has been to internalize my own best parent. That it's like, I'd tell myself the things I needed to hear.
Okay.
And so I really like to empower kids that they don't need, like, it's not every Wednesday coming to me. That's the only thing that, like, can help them, that
Right.
they are constantly with themselves.
Yes.
And so I think, like, empowering them to have that inner guidance, inner voice, like, that's a lifelong skill. And so, like, I'll sometimes do, like, role I have a bunch of puppets. Like, I have an owl that's super creepy. Its head goes all the way around. They love it. It's real creepy though. And so, like, I'll do role play, like, you to you,
Yeah.
like, to talk to yourself, because how I survived my childhood, I knew no one, they could control what was going on with every other part of me but my brain. Can't
Uh-huh.
control my brain. Like, I'm in there, I'm in there. And so I've always thought that that was the coolest. So
Yeah.
I'll tell them, like, you might be miserable in math class, but guess who can't control the noise in there? Like, your teacher. And so I think strengthening that inner voice is a lifelong gift.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. So definitely a top skill to learn for kids for sure, because a lot of adults don't have that skill.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, yeah, and then it's like, I've learned in my personal work that my mom's not coming back. And even if she didn't die when I was that young, I didn't get what I needed and deserved.
Yeah.
And that's never coming. No one's coming for me.
Right.
And so if I want to feel better, more secure, my word of the year has become, like, if I want to, like, become who I want to be, like, I got to do it.
Yeah. Like we just got to stop giving our power away
Right.
and start owning what we need. Yeah.
Totally.
I know, I always say that, no one's coming to save you. You
No
have
one.
to do it yourself. Like, you don't have to do it alone, but
Right.
you have to do it for yourself, right? So, yeah,
Mhm.
that's so important for kids to learn. Honestly, I think kids are going to be so much smarter than us in another 10 years. It's scary. And I don't mean
Mhm.
in a bad way, I mean in a great way. Like they just are grasping so much more emotional intelligence than we ever had.
Yeah, and that makes them confused about what's going on in the world too.
It
They're
does,
like,
for
and
sure.
I'm like, I don't know, man.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. The more heightened their awareness is and intelligence is, the more confusing it is because it's confusing for me, right?
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and so they're like, "But I bet," and
Yeah,
I don't know, dude.
I know. It's good that they're getting curious, though. I love that. I love that they're that just
Yeah,
stay curious, and one day you'll figure out,
I
hopefully,
know.
more than I know.
I did do, a video that I think I'm gonna post on Thursday, but the theme is, like, the 6-7 thing.
Yeah. I
So
don't
it's
get
like,
it, but whatever.
ugh, because there's nothing to get.
I know.
And so I'm like, the 6-7 thing, like, how it, like, spread like wildfire, that's how information spreads with kids, and if we don't give them the right information, they listen to whoever sounds the most confident, even if they're wrong.
Mhm. Yeah. So true. So true.
Because, like, how do they all know it? Like, even the homeschool kids, how do you all know it?
I know.
And
That's
so
the
it's like the kid
power of
underground.
the internet.
Yeah. But
And
it's like, yeah, like, older siblings are, it's just, it spreads. And so the fact is, we need to make sure our children are getting the right information,
yeah.
accurate information, because they're not going to stop asking. They're going to figure it out from someone else.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for saying that. So true. So, where can people find you and what have you kind of got coming up?
Yeah. So my website, I'm sure it'll be in the show notes, but stacyschaffer.com.
Hmm.
On my website, you can get the first free chapter of my book. Also, you can get I have my document, 5 things you need to know about raising kids in 2026. There's a link to my book. It's on Amazon, Barnes& and Noble. I actually did my own audiobook, so I flew
Oh,
to
awesome.
Nashville. So if you like this cartoon voice, it's on
Yeah.
Audible and Spotify. And so if you love it, rate and review. If you don't love it, reviews aren't open.
Yeah. Close the door. So, any parting words or words of wisdom for some
No.
parents out there?
I think that if you care about being a better parent, you're already like steps above previous generations who never thought about it once. So it's usually the good parents that are worried about being good parents.
Yeah, which is great. And I hope all the parents listening take something from this too. And I know facing your own stuff isn't easy, but if you can take anything away, it's that your kids matter, and what how they're growing in their life is really going to matter even more. So pay attention, right?
Yep, I
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Stacy. I appreciate you coming on and
Yeah,
sharing
thank
with
you for
us.
having me. Thank you
Yeah.
for having me.
Thank you for joining me today on another episode of Becoming Sound. If this episode resonated with you in some way, please share it with someone you care about. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button. It helps to get this information out to more people who may need it. If you have a sec, I would love a follow on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. While you're there, hit the 5-star rating and give me a review. When you're scrolling, follow me on my social platforms, and I would love to hear your comments and feedback. Have a fabulous day, lots of love and gratitude from me. Please note, the views, information, and opinions expressed during the Becoming Sound podcast series are solely those of the individuals involved. The content of this podcast is to educate, inform, and for entertainment purposes only. This podcast series and the content presented does not constitute for medical or other professional advice or services. If you are in crisis or in need of help, please contact your medical or professional provider.